Hi everyone, welcome to Current Events Articles in Psychology. I just wanted to express a warm welcome to you for joining me in this adventure. We will be reviewing current articles on various psychological topics to include human sexuality, dating, love, health and wellness, and lots of more articles. Anyway, but the best part is we are going to learn how to interpret each topic using the main perspectives in psychology, such as the behavioral model and the cognitive model, the socio-cultural model, and so on and so on. So first, I will review a particular article, then present a lecture on psychology's perspectives. Then you pick one psychological perspective and tell me how that particular perspective interprets the finding of the article. How fun is that? I am so excited to see all of your responses. And you know my motto, go where you are celebrated, not where you are tolerated. Learn lots and smile even more. Okay, so this is a great article by Jana, and it's entitled, How I Found Out My Boyfriend Was Cheating on Me with Multiple Women. Not just one, but multiple women, including one of my best friends. Oh my goodness. Okay. And she starts off. I've dated some doozies during my time, but there is one particular bloke who really takes the cake. My friends and I still refer to him as the super cheater. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? Nope, it's the super cheater, throwing his willy around all over the place. Do you see? A few years ago, I found myself stuck in a toxic relationship. It was one of those all-consuming love affairs. I mean, come on, guys. I'm sure we've all had one of those, right? But it was all of those all-consuming love affairs you hear about, but never think you would be naive enough to even get mixed up in it. I had never experienced an intoxicating love like this. You see, my first long-term boyfriend was a sweet, nice, safe kind of guy, which was great for my smallish town upbringing. But once I got out into the real world, I discovered there were many different types of men who made my heart race in a different kind of way. Not a good way, dear reader. Not a good way. I believe the term for this now is emotionally unavailable. And I was a big fan of these type of guys. And so it was that I found myself in a relationship with a guy who would really stake up my nervous system. He was tanned with broad shoulders and a loud, robust personality that lit up the room when he walked in. I was hooked, and so I bid adieu to my brain and all common sense. The first time he cheated on me, I was traumatized. I remember taking a call while driving that left me so gobsmacked I had to pull over to the side of the road. The phone call had come from my mom to let me know that a close family friend had just spotted my boyfriend making out with a girl at McDonald's. Yup, infidelity with a side of fries. Once I hung up, I stared out of the window for roughly 5 minutes, trying to process what had just been told to me, bursting into tears and crying until I felt like I had, let the well run dry. Now, my mom was not a fan of this guy. In fact, no one was. So by telling me this information, she was hoping I would finally kick him to the curb. But my silly old heart was in denial. I started making calls. I need more information. More. Was I trying to find out all the details or desperately trying to talk to anyone who would dispel the rumor that I knew deep down was true? Come on now, as I'm reading this wonderful, wonderful article, have you ever been in such a predicament? Have this ever happened to you? I want you to think of that. Think of this as I continue reading. I think I knew exactly who the woman was before my mom even mentioned what she looked like. We couldn't have been more opposite. They say a woman's intuition never lies. And from the moment he first mentioned her name, I felt something uneasy deep inside my belly. She was the new girlfriend of one of his mates. And because she was a bit of a tomboy, she would tag along where they were going, like on fishing trips and dirt bike rides. Meanwhile, I was working in the fashion media. Oh, the irony. He denied it till he was blue in the face, even getting the woman to call me to deny it herself. He said he just had to ask her something for a lift home from work because he had lost his license. Of course he had. And then they stopped in for some mochas. Even though deep down I knew he was lying when he said they weren't kissing, I chose to believe him. And we carried on. The thing they don't tell you about cheating is that if you do decide to stray in a relationship, it will never be the same again. Okay, I started getting paranoid when he went out. Who was he cheating with? Oh my, were there any gorgeous girls in the room he might try to crack onto? What were all his friends saying about me? Do they think I'm an idiot for believing him? I turned into the Inspector Gadget going through his phone while he was asleep, monitoring where he was. I found out of town, constantly checking Instagram stories to see if I could spot him. I hated who I was becoming. A year later, I took a trip overseas. He was hopeless at saving money and had no interest in travel, so I went with a friend instead. We were having a brilliant time until I got a text from a friend saying, "Hey babe, I don't want to stress you out, but Jack just left our party with Sarah. Babe, they were flirting all night. Everyone's talking about it, so I wanted you to hear it from me rather than someone else." Sarah was part of my friend group and had just broken up with her boyfriend. I remember it so clearly. I was walking down the street on my way to lunch, and I just felt numb. I called his phone, but he didn't answer. I called her phone, and she didn't answer. So I sent them both a text message saying, "Please tell me you guys aren't sleeping together." I got radio silence for the next 24 hours, and it was hell. He called me the next day to, of course, deny it. But by then I had already received a call from another friend saying Sarah had called her in tears saying she'd royally messed up. She gave a list of the usual excuses. I was drunk. I was rebounding. I just wanted to get back at my ex. But she hadn't called me. Instead of handling the situation calmly, I chose chaos. The rest of my trip went by in a blur of partying, crying, kissing other guys in a bid to feel redemption, and acting completely out of character. As I flew home a week later, of course, I looked at my hungover self and simply thought, who have I become? I didn't even recognize myself anymore. The next day, I booked myself in to see a hypnotherapist a friend had raved about to see if she could give me a quick fix solution to the problem that realistically needed a solid couple of months of therapy. I don't know if she hoodwinked me into believing I had strength to dump him or it really did work, but I went straight to his house afterwards and broke up with him. I explained I could no longer take his lies and I could never trust him again. Over the next month, people came out of the woodwork to share with me stories they had heard of his cheating ways. Turns out he was quite a cheater while we were together. It took a long time to trust a guy again. In fact, I still don't think I've fully recovered. But I have quite a few friends who are in healthy relationships, so I know it's possible. He is now married with kids, and I genuinely hope he has grown up. But when it comes to serial cheaters, do you think that's possible? I'm not completely convinced. There are some things they don't tell you about dating a serial cheater and why you should consider leaving after the first red flag. 1. The effects will stay long after the relationship dies. Therapy is your friend. 2. You will be mortified after having to get an STD check for a mistake you didn't even make. Miraculously, I was in the clear. 3. You will still get slightly paranoid when you date someone new. I believe that is what is referred to as baggage. 4. You will lose self-respect, especially if you choose to stay. Thankfully, friends and therapy will help you once you remove them from your life. You will get it back. 5. You may end up cheating yourself in a bid to get back at them. You won't feel good about yourself, and it won't fix the problem. Did I mention therapy? I think the real lesson I learned during all of this is to trust your gut. If those red flags are waving, pay attention to them and run. Damn him for ruining mochas for me. The cheeseburgers just never tasted the same. Okay, everyone, so this is an article again by Jana, Hocking, how I found out my boyfriend was cheating on me with multiple women, including one of my best friends. So now, in my upcoming lecture about psychological perspectives, I want you to listen to each perspective and try to figure out a way what was going on with Hannah that she knew deep down that her boyfriend has cheated multiple times, but she chose to stay with him anyway. And why did she finally decide to leave? Was it because of embarrassment, or was it that she found enough courage to do so? And what was going on in the boyfriend's head? Why are some people serial cheaters? Why? Is there a deeper underlying psychological reason behind this? Let me know what you think. In this lecture, we will review the different perspectives on abnormal behavior. Those in the field of abnormal psychology study people's emotional, cognitive, and or behavioral problems. Abnormal behavior may be defined as behavior that is disturbing, which is socially unacceptable, distressing, maladaptive, which is self-defeating, and often the result of distorted thoughts, which are cognitions. There are a number of different perspectives used in abnormal psychology. While some psychologists or psychiatrists may focus on a single viewpoint, many mental health professionals use elements from multiple areas in order to better understand and treat psychological disorders. Let us first begin with the medical perspectives. This approach to abnormal psychology focuses on the biological causes of mental illness. emphasizing understanding the underlying cause of disorders, which might include genetic inheritance, related physical illnesses, infections, and chemical imbalances. Medical treatments are often pharmaceutical in nature, although medication is often used in conjunction with some type of psychotherapy. Okay, so those who hold a medical perspective focus on biological and psychological factors as causes of abnormal behavior, which is treated as a disease or mental illness and is diagnosed through symptoms and cured through treatment. Hospitalization and drugs are often preferred methods of treatment rather than psychological investigation. Recent research linking biochemical disorders with some abnormal behaviors has provided some support for this approach. Okay, next, let's move on to the psychodynamic perspective. This perspective has its roots in the theories of Sigmund Freud. The psychoanalytic approach suggests that many abnormal behaviors stem from unconscious thoughts, desires, and memories. While these feelings are outside of awareness, they are still believed to influence conscious actions. Therapists who take this approach believe that by analyzing their memories, behaviors, thoughts, and even dreams, people can uncover and deal with some of the feelings that have been leading to maladaptive behaviors and distress. So again, the psychodynamic perspective proposed as an alternative to the medical approach evolved from Freudian psychoanalytic theory, which contends that psychological disorders are the consequence of anxiety produced by unresolved, unconscious conflicts. Treatment focus on identification and resolution of the conflicts. Now, let's move on to the behavioral perspective. This approach to abnormal psychology focuses on observable behaviors. In behavioral therapy, the focus is on reinforcing positive behaviors and not reinforcing maladaptive behaviors. The behavioral approach targets only the behavior itself, not the underlying causes. When dealing with abnormal behavior, a behavioral therapist might utilize strategies such as classical conditioning and operant conditioning to help eliminate unwanted behaviors and teach new desired behaviors. So, those espousing a behavioral perspective contend that abnormal behavior results from faulty or ineffective learning and conditioning. Treatments are designed to reshape disordered behavior and using traditional learning procedures to treat new, more appropriate, and more adaptive responses. For example, a behavioral analysis of a case of child abuse might suggest that a father abuses his children because he learned the abusive behavior from his father and must now learn more appropriate parenting tactics. Okay, so moving on to the cognitive perspective. The cognitive approach to abnormal psychology focuses on how internal thoughts, perceptions, and reasoning contribute to psychological disorders. Cognitive treatments typically focus on helping the individual change their thoughts or reactions. Cognitive therapy might also be used in conjunction with behavioral methods in a technique known as cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. So, according to the cognitive perspective, people engage in abnormal behavior because of particular thoughts and behaviors that are often based upon their false assumptions. Treatments are oriented towards helping the maladjusted individual develop new thought processes and new values. Therapy is a process of unlearning maladaptive habits and replacing them with more useful ones. Okay, and the final perspective of today's lecture is entitled The Social Cultural Perspective. From the social cultural perspective, abnormal behavior is learned within a social context, ranging from the family to the community to the culture. Cultural variables acquired through learning and cognitive processes are believed to be important and produce an abnormal behavior. Anorexia and bulimia, for example, are psychological disorders found mostly in Western cultures, which value the thin female body.